Action?
It's 100% your heart that gets you to the finish line or to the mountain. I'm not an Olympic athlete. I came from a very ordinary background. We do not grow up in an environment that promotes mountaineering. Who puts these rules? The hijab never limited me. The fear that limits us. My only hope is for every woman to go chasing her dreams. I would love it to be the Egyptian who has done the 6 World Major Marathons and the 7 highest mountains. Greece is gonna get me to achieve what I want to achieve, then let's go crazy.
So that was the video from our special guest Manal Rostom's Nike Pro Hijab ad. And I would like us all to welcome Manal. First, before she comes and sits here, I want to give you guys all a short intro on who she is. So, Manal is the Muslim woman athlete who has broken barriers and achieved first for hijabi world. Manal is the founder of the renowned Facebook group 1 million member, women only, closed group on Facebook that helps defy stereotypes and empower women who choose to wear the hijab as a sign of faith. Manal has achieved many firsts for Arab and Egyptian women on her remarkable journey. The first hijabi woman to model in a Nike running campaign. The first Arab to be featured in an audio guided run on the global Nike Run Club app. The first Egyptian woman to run the Great Wall of China Marathon in 2016. And the first Egyptian woman to summit Mont Blanc in 2018, the highest mountain in the French Alps. In 2022, Manal summited Mount Everest, becoming the first Egyptian woman to complete the harrowing journey and achieving a lifelong dream. Manal has also completed the 6 world marathon majors as the first Egyptian woman and dreams to become the first Egyptian woman to complete the 7 summits, which are the 7 highest mountains on every continent. She's already on her way there. She's given talks at international organizations, including Facebook, Nike, Apple, and TEDx, and many more. Manal continues to follow her dreams while proud and hopes to continue smashing stereotypes by going against the norm and standing up for all women and spreading positive messages about tolerance and inclusivity, one mountain and one marathon at a time. Please help me welcome Manal Rostom.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Well, thank you so much for organizing. Well, Uncle Adil, the whole family, بجد, thank you so much. I really feel home here. And thank you for the amazing introduction. It just feels overwhelming, honestly. It's like,
How do you feel being here?
Honestly, I've been telling Aya all morning, like, it really feels like home. It's just like such a strange feeling, But maybe because New York is just like so loud and it's like really overwhelming. So it's actually so calm to be here. So thank you so much.
I was in awe when I found out you were coming here. So I'm sure everyone here is as well.
Thank you so much.
So why don't you give us a few words to introduce yourself, in your own words? From your early dreams to being a pharmacist to founding Surviving Hijab, which is very.
Okay, so I'm Egyptian. I'm from Alexandria, Egypt, actually. I was born and raised in Kuwait. Yeah, I was born and raised in Kuwait. I moved to Egypt in 1996. Yeah, so you guys are going to be making the math now. I'm actually 43 years old. I went to an international British school, and then my dad wanted me to study pharmacy. So, of course, I had to check his boxes, not mine. And I went to Jamat Iskandariya, which is like University of Alexandria in Egypt. I did a master's degree in clinical pharmacy, and then I moved back to Kuwait. I started work there. I worked as a pharmacist actually for like 14 years. But all the time I was like, I never let go of sports. Yani, my sport was running during high school. So I was actually in the track and field team. Like I grew up as a track and field athlete, but I always used to resort to sport, just like to look after my body, just like for leisure. I would climb a mountain every like one mountain a year, sort of thing, like in summer holidays, just to make sure that like I'm doing something useful, yani, with my time, not just like vacationing in Egypt. And then I lost my job in 2016. During the time, I had already started working with Nike. I had already founded Surviving Hijab. And Surviving Hijab, for those of you who don't know it, it's known as the world's largest hijab wearing community on Facebook, with a following of 1 million. It's actually a group, so it's not a page, and it's for women's only. So you can follow us on Instagram, but you need to be a woman to be on the group. Yeah, and we just like have women from all around the world, and women go on there and share stories of discrimination, or like right now it's all about like fashion and stuff because it's summer. But yeah, so that's like in a nutshell, yani.
Yeah. So in 2019, you Surviving Hijab was awarded the Facebook Community Leadership Award for being one of the largest groups on Facebook currently present to shatter stereotypes, support minorities, and underrepresented communities worldwide. When you started Surviving Hijab, where did the idea come from?
So actually, in 2014, Anna, I was struggling with my hijab in the sense that I just felt like continuing, the whole like hijab bans in sports. Like up until 2017, they were banning basketball players from playing, basketball in their hijab. And then up until 2012, football players were not allowed to wear the hijab and participate in championships. So all these things used to really bother me. And then came the whole burkini bans in Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Lebanon, which was just crazy. It was like, why are you just not letting us be who we are? So I actually considered removing my hijab because, when adversity hits, you have one of two choices. You either choose to sink or you choose to swim. And if you choose to swim, it's a much harder job because you're going to have to be swimming against the current. And then sometimes the world doesn't give you the leader that you want to see in these places. Like, you want someone to stand up and say, no, these women have the right to coexist. Whether you choose to wear a bikini or a burkini, you need to be able to go to these places. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start a Facebook group. يعني كنت بلعب يعني, like I was just playing really. I just like added 70 girls from friends and family. And then the group kept exponentially growing. Like, we just went from 70 girls that I added by hand to like 40,000 women, in a couple of months. And then it inspired me to reach out to Nike actually. So it was my idea to like reach out, but I'm going to leave it to your next question. And then like the group continued to grow. And then 2 years ago we hit 1 million, and again we are still the world's largest hijab wearing community on Facebook. And in 2019, Mark Zuckerberg was launching a program called the Facebook Community Leadership Award. So he was trying to recognize the world's most influential groups creating change, and supporting minority groups basically. And I applied. Like, I was like, we're driving change. We're trying to get the world to see us yani, in a different light. We're not oppressed. We're not boring. We're well educated. We're multilingual. But the world still places us in a box. Like me and Manar were talking about that earlier. And they just want to continue to keep us in this box. But unless someone keeps saying something or doing something, we will continue to live in that box. And yeah, and I won one out of like 100 groups worldwide that were chosen. So it was honestly amazing. Yeah, and that's when we were really placed on the map. Then it was just not like a random initiative. لا, يعني the world was actually recognizing us for our efforts in terms of what we were trying to do to support Muslim women and hijabi women in particularly.
MashaAllah, it's amazing putting the hijab on the world stage. Nike was a little sneak peek. But before we get to there, so today you're a marathon runner, you're a mountain climber, and I'm sure you went through many struggles, people stereotyping you. Can you share what most compelled you to pursue running and climbing? Oh,
Um,
and what kind of obstacles did you have to overcome?
um, so I just feel like the fact that no one ever expected you to achieve. Yani, I always call myself an underdog, meaning that people never expected me to like become the first Egyptian woman to run the 6 world marathon majors, or I was not very much expected to climb to the top of the world. I'm like physically, I feel like ordinary. I train a lot, but I don't train crazy. Like I don't wake up and be like, oh, like 10 Superman push-ups for breakfast. I don't do that. Like I actually train, very logically, and I train smart, and I just dream big. So I feel like people were just like thinking it's too big of a dream. And I just want to take the chance to say, if people tell you that it's too big of a dream, it's because it's too big of a dream for them, but it's not for you. Like if God has placed that dream in your heart, that means that you need to pursue it as hard as you can, as long as you're not hurting anyone or hurting yourself, and you're staying sensible and responsible at all times. Yani, there's one thing that yani, my dad will give me credit for. I'm into extreme sports, which is climbing to the top of the world. But I will never يعني ارمي نفسي في التهلكة بمعنى انه if I feel like this is extremely dangerous, I will back off. Like I make sensible decisions, and that's what I mean when I say I always am like taking calculated risks, you know? So yeah, so that's the first thing. Like sharing my dreams with the world to begin with was just very off-putting. Like, oh no, no, no! Like run the 6 world marathon majors. Do you know how hard it is to get a visa to the United States? Do you know how hard it is to get a visa to Japan? Okay, these visas were hard as someone who holds an Egyptian passport, but you make it work. Like I'm not a terrorist. Yani, at the end of the day, I'm traveling to these places to actually represent my country. The second thing that I really faced was when I was actually climbing Everest. My entire expedition team were actually Americans. And I just felt like I was the only brown kid on the team. I was the only Arab kid on the team. I was the only Muslim girl on the team. So all this was putting so much pressure on me in the sense that I had one guy ask me, so do you climb? يعني احنا قاعدين at the dinner table at the base camp of the highest mountain in the world. We're about to attempt the same exact like climb, and he's asking me if I climb. Yani how condescending yani can you be? So I would say, sorry, I don't understand the question. Did you mean how many other mountains did I climb before this one? He's like, no, in general. And I would just think it was so rude, like I was the slowest on the team. Most of my team actually came from Colorado. And I think you guys know, if you come from Colorado, you're a mountain climber by default. Anna, I trained for Everest inside a mall in the heat in Dubai. We have an artificial ski slope, like a skiing resort. That's where I trained. And I also trained on an artificial rock climbing wall, again inside a mall. And people would make fun of me. They're like, this is a joke. And you're training for Everest. But I made it work because you use what you have, you start where you are and do what you can every single time. And subhanallah, like God will really reward you for your efforts because He's watching. Yani, it's not like you're being lazy. I wasn't being lazy, but I was putting all my effort in doing what's right. So I think yani, in general kida, I felt like I was being bullied. Yani, just to summarize.
Really admire your response to him. It's a good way to just, what's this question? What are you saying?
I am a femtish. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm sorry, but yani, and it shocked everyone when I did make it because I was struggling. For those of you who were following me on Instagram, I did break down one day on Instagram to my followers, and I was like, "This is what I look like." Because it was the first time I ever chased like shared drama. I was just like crying, and it was just like too overwhelming.
So, what was already talking about Mount Everest? Let's keep talking about it. So, could you actually describe the journey in Mount Everest? How you got there? When did the dream start?
So the dream started in 2007, actually, when I found out that Egypt, had an Egyptian man who climbed Mount Everest. He was on TV, and my dad actually called me to come and watch the. It was just like an interview with a TV presenter called Mona Shazli. She's quite famous in Egypt, and she was just interviewing the first Egyptian man to summit Mount Everest. And my dad's like, oh my God, look at what this guy did. It's amazing. I was like, oh my God, I'd love to do that one day. And then my dad looked at me and said, أيوة أنت مش ولد عشان تروحي تتسلقي جبال. You're not a boy to go and climb mountains. And I was like, Dad, I know I'm not a boy. Like, I'm aware. I was 27 years old at the time. But he's like, لا 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 الحاجات دي للولاد. Like, this is just for boys. And I think in my dad's head, because we come from the desert essentially, right? And because we had not seen a female do these things, it instantly places barriers on what you're expected to achieve. And so I don't think it was entirely his fault. So I was like, no, but I would really like to explore this sport. I feel like it's calling me. And you often hear people say, oh, the mountains are calling. They really do, kind of. Like, if it's your dream, they constantly do call you. And honestly, it was just like a journey of 5 years of trying to present my dad. My dad is Egyptian, very Egyptian. Like, present my dad with, like, okay, here's a proof that people who go to Mount Kilimanjaro, that was the mountain I wanted to start with, people don't die. And he's like, no, but they eat humans in Africa. I was like, Dad, we're from Africa. No one gets eaten. He's like, no, but it's very dangerous. They're gonna kidnap you and they're gonna ask for ransom money. I was like, it's fine. We'll start like a GoFundMe or lahaga, and then we'll like make it work. So it took me 5 years to convince my dad. And essentially, I feel like the successful story here is having like converted my dad's mentality and having him come on board. And then finally he was like, yeah, okay, I want to see you climb Kilimanjaro. So I started with Kilimanjaro 2012. And that's how I started to build my resume. Every year, every summer, I'd like climb a mountain. So 2012 Kilimanjaro, 2013 Mount Kenya. I skipped 2014. 2015, I climbed Elbrus in Russia, in Europe. 2016, I did Everest Base Camp. 2017, I did Mount Toubkal in Morocco. And then I did Mont Blanc. And then I attempted Aconcagua a couple of times in Argentina. But Everest was not born until 2015, I would say, you know. And then when the pandemic happened and then Everest shut down, I was like, when am I going to climb Everest then? And that's when, the thought was really big in my head. I was like, khalas, after all this is over, this is my goal. I need to go straight to Everest.
So, what were the challenges while climbing, especially in the death zone? I've watched a lot of movies about Everest. I don't know what's imagine climbing it.
So I just feel like Everest, it wasn't just physical for me as much as it was like a mental challenge. To be away from family for 2 months, family and friends. And, the Everest season, unfortunately, is only April, May. So it wasn't Ramadan. And I got like I got license from like I spoke to many like sheikhs. I was like, Sheikh, like I'm climbing Everest. And he's like, oh my God, mashallah, you're representing. I was like, I want to fast. He's like, you cannot fast, and that took me it took a lot of my energy because people were bullying me on Instagram to see that I was not fasting while I was climbing. But I had a license in no ala safar. So that was the first challenge for me, to have missed an entire month of Ramadan. But of course, like I'm making them up, in the process. The second thing of being the only brown kid on the team, because that was very like challenging for me. I didn't find someone who looked like me, who was as weak as I am. I just felt like people were not being so friendly, and I'm a social butterfly. I walk in, I'd say good morning, nobody would reply. And my voice is not low, like and I was like, guys, I just said good morning. No one is like saying good morning back. And then it was just like going through the rotation. So just for everyone to understand, Everest is like you trek for 10 days, you reach base camp, and then you have to go through camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, camp 4, and then you try to head to the summit. But in order to go from base camp becomes your home. In order to go from base camp to camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, camp 4, you need to keep going up and down in order for your body to acclimatize and produce more red blood cells. Yani, the healthcare professionals in the room will understand. But basically, it just gives your body a chance to not break down if you go directly from 5,300 meters all the way to 8,800 meters. And then you start using oxygen, which was very like traumatic for me because the mask needs to be very firm on your face. If you're dealing with any feelings of anxiety or panic attacks, this is the time when your anxiety is going to kick through. Yani it's lazim, because you really feel like you're in vacuum, and you start using your oxygen from camp 2, which is 6,500 meters and above. And then you just have to yani tawakkul Allah, and you just have to keep going.
So then, how did it feel when you were at the top of the world?
So this is the saddest part about the story. So I just want you to understand that Everest takes 2 whole months. So I landed on March 18th. I left Nepal. No, actually, I came down from the top on May 18th. So I summited on May 16th. And the journey of having been bullied and then isolation, and you're being sort of like it's a very lonely environment, and it's very harsh, and it's very cold, it's out of your comfort zone, and it's very physically demanding on your body. You just keep going up and down. And then on summit day, like on the summit push, which is basically you start from the death zone at 7,900 meters, and then the journey is about 20 hours in total. So you start from Camp 4. We started at 6:30 p.m. and then we reached the top at 6:30 a.m. and then I went back down to Camp 4 at 2:30 p.m. 2 minutes, I think, or 3 minutes before reaching the top, I literally had to cross over a corpse, like a dead body. And you just have to control your emotions. And I remember, like, I was about to panic, and my guide kept saying, Manal, you have to move because there's a line behind you. I just wanted to take a few moments to just like digest what I'm actually seeing. It's a body, and it's frozen because the body, it doesn't like disintegrate or anything. It's literally frozen from 2019. You Google it, you find out who it was. It's an American man who was climbing in 2019. I think he didn't have enough oxygen, and he died of extreme exhaustion. And before you go to Everest, you sign a repatriation form. So they ask you, in the event of the body, okay, what do you want to be done with the body? And you get two options: leave the body on the mountain, or contact your embassy so they can arrange to bring it down. So I remember I had to call my dad because I was like signing this form. And I remember they're asking what we should do with the body. And he's like, which body? And I was like, my body. And he's like, لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله رب الحول. And I was like, oh, and I haven't died yet يعني, بس هو لازم نعمل حسابنا يعني. Like, we have to just take everything into account. And I remember my mom بتصوت, like, she's just like screaming at the top of her lungs from the other room, انتوا اتجنيتوا, what are you doing? Because my dad helped me finance it, to be honest, because I couldn't find sponsors and it's quite expensive. Uncle Adel knows how much it is. So my dad's like, خلاص خلاص نكلم الامbassy. I was like, okay, fine, I will call the embassy. Like, you will call the embassy. So yeah, so we ticked to call the embassy. So basically, some people sign that they want the body to be left on the mountain because that's their wish, basically, because it's also very costly to take it down. So think of this like it's a very steep slope, and there is no oxygen. It would require up to 10 men to be actually able to bring down a body that's like over 60 kilos, because I mean, most of us are definitely over 60 kilos. I'm not sure what that is in pounds. I know you guys use pounds. Yeah. But right before me standing on top of the world, I had to deal with these emotions, like seeing a dead man. قريت له الفتحة يعني عامة. Honestly, I didn't know who he was, but I was like, I'm just going to do my job like whoever he is. Before I knew he was like, like American, whatever. And then you stand on top of the world and you don't see anything. Like, and I thought, but I'm going to see New York from there, and then like Dubai. Like, you don't really see anything. You just literally see like peaks of mountains and just clouds. طبعا يعني دعيت لانه طبعا you're very high up. Yeah, like I made dua for myself and my family. I took 2 videos, one for everybody to know. I remember one Omani girl was like, don't forget to remove your goggles and mask for the photos. طبعا if someone had given me like $1 million to remove my goggles or mask, no way, like, because it was so cold and it was so windy. I was terrified صراحة. يعني I think I stayed 6 minutes. So imagine a 2-month journey for 6 minutes of glory on top of the world. Yeah, and then the journey back, you have to go down, and it took me 8 hours. So it took me like 12 hours from Camp 4. That's like the final summit push. And then you just reach and you just feel nothing.
MashaAllah. That's amazing. Wow. How did you feel with the outpouring of support you got after you finished climbing Mount Everest? From your country, from people around the world, from all hijabis?
Honestly, I just feel like I don't want people to misunderstand. Like, I'm still very, very, very proud of my accomplishment, achievement, but I'm just describing the exact moment because people are always under the impression that once we reach, we're like screaming and yelling. And it wasn't like that for me. I had a different experience because I was terrified, like, for my life. And I had panicked earlier, like at 8,600 meters, I got a panic attack and I knew it was all in my head and I had to deal with that because I was going to ruin my expedition, you know but in order for you to go through so much fear, it's just so much for on the body. But I'm very, very proud of the achievement. It was my lifelong dream. I still pinch myself. I'm like, wow, I actually did it. And no, the years, to build up to climb Mount Everest, it took a very, very long time trying to convince the parents, bring them on board. Believe it or not, so from 2007 to 2022, my dad became like my biggest fan, my biggest supporter. Like, I remember I would call him right before Summit Push, and I was like, I'm so scared. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. He's like, ما تخافيش, خلاص, خلاص, you can do this. And I was like, how do you know? And I'm like, I'm scared to panic, with the mask. He's like, la, 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 you're not going to panic. I was like, you're not a mountaineer, Dad. You don't know how it feels. Like, you've never actually tried. But God bless also, like, I have to برضو give a lot of credit to my dad. إنه بصراحة he had my back like no other. My mom was a bit different because she was just in like she was going. I put her through a very hard time. I'm very regretful obviously that she had to go through all these feelings, but alhamdulillah we got through it. Yeah, and that's it. طبعا the support from everyone was amazing. Especially the little kids. I remember when I posted a video of me crying, it wasn't, because I wanted sympathy or empathy or anything. I was just trying to show people the real Everest. And I remember one boy, his name is Hamza, he's also from Skandria, and he just sent me a message. He's like, Miss Manal, whether you choose to quit or not, we're still very proud of you, but I really want you to stand on top of the world. It's so sweet. And then also I got a girl message me and say, you are taking with you 1 million hijabi women to the top of the world, which was like, okay, there's a lot of pressure, but ما كنتش مستنية إنه I take more girls all with me. But that's when you realize that this is not just about you. This is about making people live their own Everest through you. And Everest doesn't only need to be a mountain. It could be seeking, a very big job, or moving cities or moving countries, or proposing to a girl that you thought that would never even say yes to you, or vice versa. So I think it was just giving people room and space to dream as big as I did.
So going back a bit, I want to come back to my. But going back a bit, we're talking about the media and support. Can you give us a little bit your journey about becoming an IQ Pro ambassador? How did that happen? You said you reached out. What did it mean for you?
So in 2014, when surviving hijab was growing exponentially, it just gave me, the courage to speak up louder. And I feel like, again, we were talking about this earlier, but I feel like, especially women in the Middle East, they're always expected to stay shy and not speak up. And if you do, then you're aggressive, or why are you being so manly? And I just felt like it was the first time in my life at the age of 34 that I felt like my voice can actually change the world and it can actually matter. And I'm not being too manly if I'm speaking up, or I'm not too aggressive because I'm fighting for the rights of these women who had nobody to represent them. And like, the truth of the matter is that I was the leader that, like, how do you call it? I was an accidental leader for this community. I never signed up for this role. But once you realize that you've been given this role, you need to act up and you need to represent. So I was chatting with a friend, and he's like, why don't we write to Nike? And I'm like, are you crazy? I didn't even have an Instagram account. And no, I wasn't a public figure. Surviving hijab, yes, was getting well known, but as a public figure, I was not a public figure. No one knew who I was. I was actually very private. All my Facebook account was private. So how they say 6 degrees of separation, and like the networking is like you can network or die. I just asked someone who knows someone who knows someone, and I got the email address of the head of coaches at the time, Coach Tom, the head of coaches of Nike Middle East. And I just attached a photo of myself having run, the half marathon in Abu Dhabi like a few months ago. And I just said, there is no Muslim women representation in sports. We want to see someone who looks like us. And I was never ever hinting it that I wanted it to be me. I was always referencing the community. And I think that's another secret of success, because when you start to think of community and when you start to think of how you're going to serve others, that's when all the good stuff is going to come back to you. Like I was very selfless. I was not talking about, oh, I want to model for Nike, because everybody wants to model for Nike. Everybody wants to be sponsored for Nike. I somehow, unconsciously, I just made it about the community, because that's where the true need was. There was a gap in the market, lack of representation, underrepresented community, that an international brand needed to come on board and say, okay, these girls need a voice. They need something to wear on their heads. So I became the first hijabi athlete to be featured in a Nike Middle East campaign in January 2015. And then I was invited to represent the Middle East in July of 2015 in Portland, Oregon. And I was like, what? This is crazy. And I remember the exact day that I got the email, and I'm going to Portland, Oregon. And I think I might have been the first Arab there, which is also a big deal. And then I was hired on a part-time basis as a coach, and then Nike went off, got inspired by our movement, and they created the Nike Pro Hijab. And I remember the Nike director at the time, he invited me to the office and he said, I have something to show you that will potentially change your life. So أنا على طول قلت له أنت جايب لي عريس ولا إيه؟ I just said that, like, are you trying to hook me up with a guy? He's like, لا تعالي تعالي بس I want to show you something much better. So I was like, okay, let's go see. And then he took out the Nike Pro Hijab, which honestly was like, wait, what? We were actually going to have like a performance gear with a little swoosh on the side. That meant that, we matter. It's just like something that little girls can wear, older athletes can wear, anybody can wear in a matter, of a few seconds, and still feel cool and still be able to play sports. يعني ما ينفعش تجري بال 15 قطعة, like 15 pieces that we run with. Like, it's just literally like a one piece thing. So I modeled for them for that. And then at the time I had started, like, we don't have a Nike burkini, guys, the burkini bands. Maybe if we have like something branded. So the best thing about Nike, Noma, they listen, so they take an idea and they literally just do it. They will collect, they go and do their market research. And then the Nike burkini dropped in 2020. Alhamdulillah, and I also modeled, and I'm still a contracted ambassador. Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Mashallah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually remember the day.
This was my first photo shoot, by the way. This photo was in Dubai on the beach, and they put a hijabi in the middle. And I remember everyone was like, oh, so Nike's hiring hijabi models now? I was like, well, it has a swoosh, so I guess they are, Yeah.
No, I was saying, I remember the day you're at, like, oh, did you see this? Did you see this on YouTube? Did you see it on Nike? And I remember feeling, oh, what is this? Wait, I think I got it. I remember feeling in that world, oh, the world's changing. It felt like the world's changing. How do you feel now compared to when you were growing up in terms of the gender equality in sports in general? How do you feel?
Honestly, I feel like we've come a very long way, but we still have a lot more work to be done. I don't know. It's really interesting, because as much as, we have influenced a lot of bigger brands and big brands to cater for hijabis. Nike is not the only multinational company or giant sports company that's catering for hijabis. There are so many that jumped, on the wagon, and they're like, okay, let's cater for these women. But also, I have an American friend. I was out with him. He's an older man. And I went out with him a couple of days ago. He's like, Manal, I just have a question, because me and my wife were talking about you last night. you travel the world, you climb the world's highest mountains, but why are you still wearing this? And I was like, yeah, Allah, we've gone back to square one again. أنا ما عملتش أي حاجة كده. The fact that you're still asking that question means that we still need to educate. And I was like, first of all, Uncle Jim, this is not a sign of oppression. You know, he's from New York, but he's like, yeah, but why? They still don't understand that it's a choice. They still don't understand that it's a compulsory form of worship. But also we say let there be no compulsion religion. Yani we should not force it upon our girls. And if a girl, willingly embraces the hijab, let her be. It doesn't بالعكس, yani it doesn't stop you from anything. I climb the mountains, I run the marathons. بالعكس, it's a great representation for me. So the fact that I'm still getting these questions means that we still need to see more girls doing that. It can't just be me, or it can't just be like 10 girls, for example, around the world, and not just that, like I want more girls to start sharing their stories, with the purpose of inspiring. You don't have to want to get famous, because remember, what really got me to where I am today is always thinking of the greater picture. I was thinking of community, how we can actually serve these women, you know I'm not gonna lie, like obviously it feels great, to be affiliated with these brands, to have achieved all these goals. It was personal goals, but my start point was catering for community. So yeah, I think we're doing okay, but we still need to have more Muslim women representation. We still need to have like more stories shared, and not only from a certain part of the world. And that's why like this opportunity is great for me, because I get to share the story with all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Wallahi. So, what advice would you give to young women fearing following her dreams out of discrimination or judgment, or even fearing that it's too late?
First of all, it's not too late, because like I'm 43 years old, and I take pride in the fact that I know I look a bit younger, but people look at me and they're like, "You climbed Everest when you were 42." Just like for your information, the average age of people climbing Everest is actually 45 and above, because it's a very expensive expedition. So most of the time, because people can't find sponsors, so they end up paying for it themselves. So you need to be established, financially, in order to be able to climb Everest. And I just finished the sixth world marathon majors in March 2023 in Japan at the age of 43. I actually ran my fastest marathon in my whole life at the age of 43, because I trained different for this one, because I was trying to beat the other Egyptian girl who was running Saraha Yani. So it just gave me a reason to train harder. But I'm just saying, like, age is a mental block that I feel society places upon women in particularly. It's like, yani when I turned 43, I'm just gonna share this. It's quite private, but fertility clinics started calling me. They're like, "Are you considering freezing your eggs because your chances of having kids is not?" And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Like this is first of all, this is a very private topic. But I feel like society puts all these pressures on women because of age, and at the end of the day, it's like Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is the one who really makes these decisions. So it's never too late. Second of all, the naysayers. Remember when I first started talking about my journey, every single person I shared my dream with said the same thing. You're crazy. It's like, it's never been done before. You're not going to be able to do it, just because it was never done before. And I just again want to remind you to try to shut out the naysayers. It's a very difficult task. You just have to have faith in your heart, and you have to always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. Pray istikhara and see where life takes you, because we don't know where we're going to be tomorrow morning. So يعني مثلا لما حد بيقول لي so now you're doing all these talks and you're with Nike, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I have no idea. I'm not planning for that. We don't know. Like when the pandemic hit, we were all like, all of our lives were just like upside down over the course of like one night. So shut out the naysayers. If someone tells you that your dream is too big, always remember that it's too big for them and it's not for you. If God subhanahu wa ta'ala has planted it in your heart, then you have to go out there and try to make it happen. Use what you can, start where you are, do what you can. And it's never too late. So I hope I've set that example, Yani. Yeah.
You definitely. So what would you? So, or what's your favorite achievement?
What do you think is my biggest achievement? Having said all this, the
Mount
answer is
Everest?
pretty clear.
Mount Everest?
No, it's not.
Oh. Hmm. I don't want to say the wrong answer. Anyone else have a guess? Yes, okay. Anyone else have a guess? Good one. Yeah.
Surviving hijab. Yeah,
Ah.
that is my biggest accomplishment. This was, by the way, in New York City. I had just finished the New York City Marathon, and all these girls came out of nowhere with banners. That's when I knew that our movement was way bigger than an online community, you guys. So I had posted on their group. I was like, guys, if anybody's in New York, I'm going to be running tomorrow. Yani, bsaraha, I did not expect a single woman to show up. But so this girl made a huge banner, and I saw it while I was entering Central Park, and I was about to complete the New York City Marathon because you finish in Central Park. And this girl was like, oh my God, like she's actually a member of my community. And honestly, it was one of the happiest moments in my life. Yani, none of my family members could fly to New York because everyone is scattered. Whoever is in the US, واحدة في Portland, واحد مش عارفة في Michigan. So it was just like really hard. But all these girls came to support. I didn't know who they are. So I would say to date, surviving hijab is my biggest accomplishment. Yeah.
MashaAllah. I really like that.
This is with Sheryl Sandberg, by the way, in Facebook. So that was me doing like a talk in 2018. Sheryl Sandberg is the former COO of Facebook, so the Chief Operating Officer. She doesn't work there anymore, but she's such a huge supporter of surviving hijab. Yani it's crazy, and she's a Jewish woman, but she supports the idea of embracing, the hijab and like fighting for the rights of women to coexist and exist in whichever way possible.
MashaAllah. Wow. I know this folder, I feel like a treasure. I guess the last question for me is what's next for you?
So what's next? If you had asked me that question last year, yani, I would have been like, don't ask me that question. Because I remember I posted a photo of me coming down from Everest, and people were already asking me what's next. Yani, Bismillah, like I just literally came up the highest mountain in the world. Why are we like this as a nation? Yani, why can't we, take it all in, breathe, say Alhamdulillah, count our blessings? I just feel like, we're constantly chasing the next best thing, which I think is wrong, and it's what's causing anxiety. But if Everest taught me anything, is to just like stay calm, count your blessings, take it all in. It doesn't have to be something yani على طول, like what's next. However, I decided that I really want to finish the 7 highest mountains around the world. I see myself on top of every continent. So I've done 3 out of the 4, out of the 7, sorry. Next month, I'm going to Australia to climb the highest mountain there, inshallah. So that's what's next. Yeah. You guys are like kind of like the first to know, Yani, because I announced it, but I don't think people really know. Yeah.
MashaAllah. So those are all the questions that I have. I mean, I can have more, but I want to give some room to the audience for anyone who has any questions for Manal. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, can you see how that ran?
0
Yes.
questions?
Go ahead. If here you want to say it from there.
I wanted to ask you how I have a problem with consistency and dedication. I'm an athlete also, but nowadays I have an issue. But how are you able to fight your own mind in your battle and just kind of be consistent to kind of reach your goal and where you want to be? Whether it's anything, like religion, like athleticism, how are you able to do that?
Okay, so I'm gonna be very honest. Before, like having started, my online platforms, now I'm accountable. Like I don't want to quit because I don't want to fail myself, and I don't want to fail anyone who believed in me. So like I always say, the journey stops being about you and becomes about everyone who really truly wants to see you succeed. You know, it's not because I'm doing it for them, بس يعني I'm gonna say it in Arabic and then I'm gonna translate. بس مش عايزة أفشل قدام نفسي. Like I don't want to fail, in front of myself. Like because you always have to like live up to a certain image. Like where do you want to see yourself? Okay, on top of every mountain, every continent. Okay, so it's not gonna happen. Like you're not gonna fall on top of these mountains. You need to hustle, you need to work, you need to train. So if I slack, I won't achieve these goals. So I would say if you don't have like a big following where you're sharing and someone is like waiting for you to post, so it gives them motivation to go and train. Like, you know, these days, like influencers, even though I hate the word influencer, I hate it when someone calls me an influencer. I'm like, first of all, I'm an athlete and I have a mission and I have goals, you know, and if that inspires someone, fine, then I'm the reason for their inspiration. But I hate that word. So I would say you really need to set yourself goals, because if you have goals, like let's say masalan you want to train for the Chicago Marathon that's happening in October. Okay, so you have 2 months to train or 3 months to train, so you can't slack. But if you're just going to train, I'm telling you, it's going to be very, very hard. Yani, as an athlete, you always have to set goals. I'm going to give you an example. After I finished Tokyo in March, I got so depressed. Like, I was like, okay, so I've done Everest last year and now I've completed the 6 World Marathon Majors. And I thought I was going to be done. Like, I was like, Khalas, I don't want to go through these harsh experiences anymore. Again, I'm 43 years old. Like, I don't want to keep training for a marathon because it takes a lot on your body. بس لقيت نفسي I'm like getting depressed actually, because I don't have anything that I'm looking out for. And then came the idea of climbing Mount Kosciuszko in Australia, and then it just completely shifted my mindset and mood. I was like, oh my God, I'm actually feeling better. And that's how I knew that I need to keep dreaming. There's no point to stop dreaming as long as you're alive, sort of thing. I know it sounds like a cliche, but or cheesy or whatever, but it's true. You know, as an athlete, you want to achieve certain goals. Even run your first 5K, 10K. It doesn't have to be something as big as a marathon. So set yourself goals with timelines, and you just don't want to fail. Like, you know, don't start what you can't finish, sort of thing. Yeah. طبعا طبعا ماشي اوكي. صح صح.
طيب، مع قصه الحجاب والحمد لله انت اصبحت مشهوره في العالم كله، لماذا لا تتبني قضايا المراه في بعض الدول العربيه والعالميه؟ اكزامبل مثلا على سبيل المثال في السويد في اوروبا بيخطفوا الاولاد الصغيرين من امهاتهم ويجنسوهم في الكنائس او غيره. مثال، في عندنا امراه او في نساء بيموتوا في البحر هجره او هروبا من حكومات معينه. مثلا في هناك بنات صيدلانيات وطبيبات في السجون في بعض الدول. لماذا وانت الحمد لله انسانه مشهوره ليه ما تشيريش الى هذا النوع من هضم حقوق المراه في العالم؟
هو طبعا شكرا جدا يعني على السؤال. بص، هقول لحضرتك على حاجه. انا مش هقدر اعمل كل حاجه اللي الناس متوقعه ان انا هعملها، لان صدقني الموضوع ده صعب جدا علينا احنا كصانعين محتوى على مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي او ناس يعني مشهوره شويه. لا، هو مش بس كده، هو كمان انا بس عايزه اوضح لحضرتك الصوره. اوكي، انا حياتي مش كلها باترفلايز وبينك. الناس كميه الاتاكس اللي باخدها من الانترنت. يعني مثلا ايام لما كنت بتسلق ايفرست ما كنتش صايمه. اوكي، انا كان عندي اذن من شيخ وكان قايل لي ان انت على سفر طبيعي. اوكي، وبعدين قال لي ده انت اللي انت بتعمليه ده حاجه بتشرف البنات المسلمات، بلس ان انا كنت على طول بذكر ان انا مؤسسه سرفايفنج حجاب وكده. فالحاجات دي بتاثر عليا نفسيا. يعني مثلا هم مستكترين عليا نعمه ان انا ربنا حطني، ربنا سبحانه وتعالى هو اللي حطني ان انا اكون قائده الجروب ده. فيقول لك ايه اللي انت لابساه ده مش حجاب، وبيقعدوا يعني يتنمروا عليا. فانا بحاول ان انا اتفادى الكومنتس دي. فانا بخاف ادخل في قضيه تانية اقعد بجد بيرموا عليا شباشب. انا بحس ان انا يعني عمالين بيحدفوا عليا طوب بقى، شباشب، اي حاجه. انا لدرجه ان انا ساعات مره والله العظيم مره صحيت من نص الليل كده، كنت طالعه يعني اشرب ميه، لقيت الانستجرام بتاعي تن 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 قبل ما عرفت اظبط البرايفسي سيتنجز ان انا ازاي ما اعملش سبورت. ان انا بشتغل مع نايكي، هم كانوا بيقولوا كده، ونايكي اللي هو التشاينا، الموضوع تشاينا، مع ان نايكي نزلت. انا مش نايكي، انا واحده من الاثليتس. هم عشان يعني بيستقوا عليا. والله العظيم انا جالي كميه انكزايتي، قلبي صار يدق 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 يدق، ما عرفتش اتنفس في نص الليل. ناس ما اعرفهمش shame on you مش عارفه ايه، you are pretending to be a Muslim، مش عارفه tell Nike to leave Nike. ايه انتوا مين يا جماعه؟ انتوا مين؟ طب ما تروحوا انتوا تقولوا كده. فانا بخاف ادخل نفسي في موضوع انا مش فاهماه قوي، او انا مش عارفه، فانا مخليه نفسي في كذا قضيه بصراحه. انا اوريدي بتكلم على القضيه الفلسطينيه، وبرده بتضرب، وبرده مش عارفه يعني على طول بتهزق، وتقريبا انستجرام بتاعي محطوط عليه شادو بان عشان على طول بذكر القضيه الفلسطينيه. وده انا مره اصلا يعني رفعت، حطيت زي بانر كده، Israel is a terrorist state. انا قلت كده. يا نهار اسود على اللي حصل لي انا بجد. كميه التليفونات اللي الناس كلموني اللي هو تيك ات داون، دول هيجوا يقتلوكي مش عارفه ايه. انا قلت يا جماعه ريلاكس، this is my view, it does not يعني انا مش بعبر على راي اي حد غيري انا. مش عاجبك كلامي اعمل لي انفولو، يعني هو بمنتهى السهوله. فبس عند حضرتك حق، ممكن يعني ادخل لما بلاقي حاجه بجد 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 انا عايزه اتكلم عليها، صدقني.
والجميع يشير اليك بالبنان والنجاح. لا تلتفت الى قضايا فقهيه ابدا، انت ماشيه صح وعندك رخصه في موضوع الافطار والصيام.
الف شكر، شكرا.
خليكي منطلقه، ولا يهمك ابدا اللي يحصل حواليك، ولكن لو في فرصه
طبعا
تشيري الى قضيه عامه مثلا ايه، قضيه السويد مثلا مؤثره فيها جدا، لان بياخدوا البنات وبياخدوا الاولاد من احضان امهاتهم ووالدتهم مثلا. هذا شيء خطير جدا في سوريا. لو وعلى كل عالم بتكلم عنه، فلو في قضيه عالميه والجميع كله يشير وهي هتخدم ديننا.
طبعا 100%.
انت اخت مسلمه محترمه محجبه، عندك قضايا وعندك حاجه شغلاكي، هي ديت اللي هترفع اسمك الدنيا، مش بس حاجه.
لا طبعا، ايوه، لا طبعا.
الدماغ مفوته.
ايوه
عايز اقول ايه؟ عايز اقول مع الحجاب يا ريت يكون في قضايا ثانيه اكثر تاثيرا في المجتمعات العربيه.
والله انا مثلا بتكلم على قضيه مثلا، يعني انا مهتمه جدا بقضيه يعني البلاستيك والريسايكلينج والحاجات دي. انا بتكلم في الموضوع ده على اساس ان انا يعني اسكندرانيه وعايشه طول عمري في البحر، فمش عايزه ان على 2050 ان احنا نلاقي بلاستيك اكتر من السمك مثلا سو انا بتكلم على الحاجات دي الانفايرمنتال كده ستاف. بس بصراحه ما بحبش اتغوط في حاجات تانية عشان تصدقني مش بخلص. وبلاقي مثلا دي امز ناس بيدخلوا يعملوا فيك اكونتس عشان اتشتم. ماشي اوكي، ففي ناس تقول لي لا لا ما انت مالكيش دعوه بيهم، هم انت لا الكلام ده بيوجع يا جماعه. ما انا بيجي لي مثلا 100 كومنت كويسه، وبيجي لي 1 كومنت وحشه بجد، بتبقى يعني زي السم، يعني مش ممكن بحاول والله. ما انا عشان كده بحاول اقلل شويه انتشاري، عشان يعني مثلا حتى اقول لحضرتك اكزامبل. لما انا كنت في طوكيو، اوكي، انا كنت عايزه اسبق البنت الثانيه، ما أصل هو سباق، يعني هو في النهايه انت في سباق اسمه سباق ما اسمهوش. فانا لما سبقتها قلت ان انا اول مصريه، ما خلصتش بقى، ما خلصتش ان انا اول مصريه. يعني حضرتك فاهم ده على اتفه الحاجات، يعني ده احنا بنتكلم رياضه بحت يعني. الله يخليك، وانا كمان والله تسلم، الف شكر.
Would you like me to give a short translation? Very short. So, he was asking about Manal being involved in other issues around the world outside of the hijab. And Manal was giving a response about how she chooses which things to go forward. And right now, the issue that she is the face of is the hijab. And of course, Amu was telling her, you can always go for more. And, there's always opportunities, but we also have to be very cognizant of the social scrutiny that like a public figure like Manal faces, especially in terms of comments. Oh no, it's all right. But then
And cyberbullying.
and cyberbullying. She's also just a person, subhanAllah. And that we just because I want to move to another question, if anyone would want more translation of what the conversation was about, I can definitely give it later.
For somebody who's basically renowned, right? You're well known all across the globe. What do you feel like is the biggest hardships? Do you feel like when you receive backlashes on people saying like, oh, like I'm not too sure, like what do you think was the hardest part in being a professional athlete, but as well as being a huge representation around the globe?
Honestly, I just really feel like people forget that I'm human at the end of the day. I didn't sign up for any of the roles that I currently have, whether it's being a Nike ambassador or, representing 1 million women, whether some women think I'm deserving, of that role or not. But I think people forget that I'm human and I'm just the girl next door who just wanted to bring change to the world. Really, they sometimes the comments are so harsh. and they just forget that I'm human. They put you on a pedestal of their own creation, and then they just like start loading. It's like, shame on you for someone, in your position to do one, two, three. What do you know about my life?
It's almost like we're set to like. Well, I would never understand where you're coming from, but from what I see is like, especially people that have this like position in life, you're kind of set on these huge expectations, to which you're kind of also trying to exceed the expectation of being perfect. Which
Yeah.
we have to remind ourselves at the end of the day, we're human.
Yeah.
We are furthest of being perfect, and that there's the one thing and one thing only that's perfect to us. But unfortunately, we live in a world where people are very envious and they look for anything to let people down. And it's insane that even at this point in time, that it's like even it happens around Muslims too. But I really do appreciate that you
Thank you.
set that example to us that it's okay to be ourselves. It's okay to push for change because that's what we should be doing as humans. Bare minimum.
SubhanAllah. Thank you so much, Asil. Thank you, Manal. We had a question, yes?
First, I really appreciate that you do the environmental work because I think a lot of people forget that Islamic tradition is that we are stewards of the earth. And so just seeing you talk about my family's from Alexandria and, I like here, even in New Jersey, I think that that's a huge part of like the Muslim community. So I even appreciate you being an advocate for that. I did want to ask about, surviving hijab is for women. You do a lot for women. You have a lot of support for women. What do you want? And you get a lot of backlash from both women, men, all types of different communities. What would you ask for men in our Muslim communities to help support Muslim hijabi women? What do you wish you saw from the other side? What kind of support, whether it be like social media and sports, fathers, brothers, husbands, just community members, what would you ask of them?
Okay, that's a difficult one, but honestly, I just feel like if you're a man, you're either a father or a brother or a husband. These are, yeah, brother, husband, father, uncle. لا son يعني مش قوي بس يعني your role you won't have a big role to play in this if you're a son, but as a brother, uncle, father, I just feel like you really need to help these women achieve their goals, whether it's to not judge them for their dreams. Never tell a woman that her dream is too big. Never tell a woman that she's acting manly just because she is attempting something that was most probably done so many times by a man, or you haven't seen someone, or like you haven't seen a woman do these things. It's okay for her to outgrow you, or outgrow her community, or outgrow your ability to dream big. يعني I find it very hard now to go back home and I see how some people receive me. It's not my fault that I have outgrown you, because I managed, it was very hard, but I managed to, run after my dreams, literally, run after my dreams to achieve them. And I struggle myself with my brother right now. But my brother gave me a very hard time when I was growing up. He's 5 years older. Because I was constantly told, like, you can't speak to boys, you can't go there. However, I grew up hating the hijab because of him, and it was just because of an accident that I had in 2000, sorry, in 1999, when you were born, that I actually decided to embrace the hijab. Yeah, so 23 years ago, that's a long time. But basically, now I see how my brother is changing with his daughter, because he's seen, his impact on me for the first, like, in my 20s and in my 30s. So alhamdulillah, he's changing with his daughter now. But my brother made my life very, very difficult, and alhamdulillah, I persevered. My dad was kind of like lost, like, he has a son who's like, putting all this pressure, because it's like, what will people say? You can't do this, you can't go there. And I'm like, just stop it, like, you can't just like control me like that. So I think men need to cut women some slack, and not live in that controlling, mentality, like I can control you. It takes a very, very strong man I will say it as loud as I can, to support a strong woman. You know, like you need to be very self-aware, self-confident. It's true. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you intimidate men." Well, I was like, "That's not my fault. That's their fault." You know, they're being intimidated. I'm not intimidating. They are intimidated. There's a difference. You know. So I think there needs to be a lot of education around supporting strong women, because we exist like you, thinking that, my biggest achievement was 6 world math majors, but you came close, but I think there needs to be a lot more support. And there's nothing wrong. Like if we go back to ayam rasul alayhi salatu salam, look at how he used to treat his wives. Yani, they used to alayhi salatu salam, but like, when they used to race and she would beat him, he would give her that. He wouldn't be like, لا انا لازم اكسب صح مش في قصة كده. Like when they were racing and he allowed her to race him, but try to apply this example now. It's like, لا انا الراجل, like I'm the man of the house. Yeah, like it doesn't take away from your manhood. So I think there needs to be a lot of education. SubhanAllah, if we bring back those stories, like we see how much it will change. Another thing I want to talk about, I know it's not common maybe in your communities, but مثلا when I was like in my 20s, I would hear someone's like, "Oh, there's this aris, but he doesn't want a muhaggaba." What does that mean? Like, this is really terrible. It's common here. In Egypt, it's very common. And I was like, sorry, but like, this is very offensive for the non-hijabi, actually, more than it is for a hijabi. And I was like, I'm not sure how I can help you. Like, he doesn't want a hijabi. And like, what do you expect me to do? Like, I remember this was happening throughout my 20s. لا أصل هو عايزة واحدة تروح معاه البحر. I was like, I go to the beach. I don't have to be in a bikini to enjoy the beach. لا, and I wear a bikini. Okay, maybe I'm not going to look so cool on the beach, but why do you want to expose my body, to people on the beach? Like when I'm married to you, it doesn't make sense to me. So I just really I think it's the role of the moms now to pass it on to their sons. So if we're going to bring the son aspect, then I think it's the role of us as mothers and sisters, to try to educate boys and our sons or whatever, that they need to accept a woman as she is. And this is not preventive of anything. Bilaks, it's just a sign of being visibly Muslim, full stop,
I think we have time for one more question.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question, do you ever consider creating a mentorship program to guide Muslim girls or even Muslim boys, who inspire to follow your footsteps and to accomplish what you have accomplished in sports?
Honestly, like it's a great idea. I just like I always say, like this all happened by accident. You know what I mean? Like being in my position of leadership, I just want to say that of course, yani, ni'mah from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. But like I never planned for these things. Like I see people who go off and they write a book. It's great, but these people have designed their lives to be like this. I really did not design my life to go this way at all. Like I was so into my career, I thought I was gonna keep on climbing, the career ladder as a pharmacist. I thought by now I'd have like 5 kids. So just my life went completely, like a different direction. I would love to do a mentorship program. If you have any leads, I'm always open for ideas. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I mean, these talks and these opportunities to, to mingle with the communities also, like, I consider it like a partial mentorship, yani shwaya, Yeah.
I should figure out. And there's the video from the
يا ريت كمان عندنا اي اشاره
What's your thoughts on free solo? How is it exerted?
Free Solomon? I actually don't know anything about that.
Free solo.
Free what, sorry?
Solo.
everest yes
Free solo. Like they climb mountains without any
Oh,
straps.
no. I don't think. I take calculated risks. I take calculated risks like that. And that's
Have
what
you seen these climbers?
like. Oh, so this is me. This is me like crossing the ladder on Everest. It's like one of the hardest. This was the last time I ever had to cross. It was like on my way down. Actually, I was giving like a TEDx talk on the on the on the ladder because هنا في الايس فول ما بين البيس كامب وكامب 1 بتبقى قطع ثلجيه ولازم بتمسك في الحبل ده ولازم تعدي على السلم ده. السلم ده تحتيه 300 متر مثلا. لو وقعت بقى ربنا معاك. So you just have to really control your emotions. It was one of the hardest يعني moments on Everest بصراحه. والله لا انا عذبت مامتي بصراحه. انا تقريبا كنت بصوت يعني وانا يا You have the one from the top? Yeah.
Wait, let's see. Wait, let's just. I think this might be have to be our last one because she's gonna finish 3 minutes. Let's see. Okay, Sunnah. Elian. 3, 2, 1. Open. Okay. Oh.
So دي لحظة الوصول على القمة. بص الهواء العالم كان هيطير. أنا اسمي منال رستم. الساعة 6:30 الصبح بقيت أول مصرية تتسلق على أعلى قمة في العالم. Yeah, that's the top. And then I have another one for surviving hijab. عملت yeah, this one بس it's just cut off. أنا كنت عايزة أعمل message يعني this is to every girl who was told that she couldn't, wouldn't or shouldn't. بس للأسف الكاميرا it died من الساعة. You know, so we didn't really do like a full one, you know. Yeah. Yeah. There's if anybody wants to see the dead bodies, I have one photo that not really okay. Because there's a photo يعني مبينة يعني عشان دي اللحظة.
After inshallah we pray Asha, but we have one more minute for Asha Advans. Just want to say, what you said about showing up for the community, and that's what makes what you do matter. SubhanAllah, like this today is really evidence of that.
Thank you.
We really
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it. And
Thank you.
if you have any last words for us,
No, I'm just we're just very proud to be here. And yeah, subhanAllah, the way I got to know Aya was just pure coincidence. And again, you just have to stay very open to say yes more to life. I got to know Aya from a message from someone that I barely knew who said, my friend is from Alexandria and you're in Alexandria. Would you like to meet? And I was like, this is so random. I don't know you and I don't know Aya. But I went out and I wanted to meet her. And then now we're here in New Jersey. That was like 2 years ago. And I was in Alexandria at the time. So subhanallah, like how the dots are just like connecting and it just comes full circle. From Alexandria by the sea, and then now I'm in New Jersey talking to you guys. I think يعني God loves us very much. إنه يجمعنا على خير كده. Honestly, yeah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to do like a selfie.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do a selfie.
Yeah, Banat, come to the back, take a picture with Manal.